Aaron Nabus here, and thanks so much for tuning into the Hall H Show, the voice of independent creators. What does someone who suffers from massive overthinking do when challenged to do something crazy like give 61 hugs to 61 random people? This was the premise for an incredible short movie that I watched at this year's International Mobile Film Festival that was created by CK Goldiing, an artist and presenter from Sheffield, England. CK filmed himself walking around Sheffield, asking complete strangers for a hug, all in one take. His viral video is a fascinating social experiment that showcases how someone terrified by the potential rejections forges on ahead anyway, with the winds of spontaneity, optimism, goodwill, and human spirit at his back. 61 Hugs challenges CK's long-standing belief that overthinking is the enemy of remarkable. I smile each time I think about this remarkable film. Please enjoy my conversation with CK Goldiing, which almost didn't happen. But in true CK fashion, the randomness of the universe had other plans for us. Enjoy. Hey, Hall H Show listeners, welcome back to the podcast. Over the past weekend, which was April 27th, 28th, I had the pleasure of helping out at the International Mobile Film Festival as a sponsor. Hall H Show was a sponsor this year, and I'm also the one of the brand ambassadors. And got to meet a bunch of awesome smartphone filmmakers from around the world, one of which is my guest today, Mr. CK Goldiing from Sheffield, England. How you doing, CK?
Aaron, I'm a little bit scared.
Why?
Let me tell you why. The minute you pressed record and started speaking, I was like, I can't speak that quietly for the rest of this show. I don't know why you're speaking so quietly. Like, you're going to need to severely reduce my gain because I'm not going to speak that loud, that quietly. I don't have it in me.
No worries.
Like, this is the level I suspect I'm going to speak at.
Okay.
Is that cool?
That's cool, man.
So I'm speaking at different levels, but it's probably going to be... Okay, I don't know how this stuff works. I'm a podcast.
No worries. just be yourself, and the universe will take care of itself.
Okay, fine.
Right?
So I will that. In which case, let's precurse that by apologising to everybody that might be slightly deafened by the end of this podcast because I laugh loud.
And pardon the background noise. We are at this place called The Local here in PB. Shout out to our waitress, Erin. She's pretty awesome, and maybe she'll make an appearance on the podcast later.
Let's hope so, because she looks like she will have things to say of interest.
But we are here to talk to CK. First of all, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know you're busy trying to soak in your first trip to the United States.
I consider this exactly that, soaking in. That's why when you offered this yesterday, I was like, oh God, please, let's make that happen, because you asked me, or at least invited me on yesterday, and I was like, well, I'm leaving on Wednesday, so I would love to do this in the intervening 2 days. So thank you sincerely. And by the way, you were awesome at the festival. I don't think it was 2 full days, and I don't think there was a moment when you weren't filming something.
Oh,
and it was like, this guy.
Well, to be honest, I'm there to help out Susie.
That's what I mean.
She does a lot for the festival and throughout the year. And when we met back in 2016, I got to know her, and we've been on each other's podcast. And I've been to the festival 3 years in a row now, and I just want to help her out as much as possible.
But that came through as well, and it was just beautiful to see. It was just purely a friend helping a friend and supporting a friend, and I just loved that. It was just like I said, you worked, so it was awesome.
Yeah. So shout out to Susie.
Shout out to Susie. Shout out to you, dude.
Thank you. Before we go on, I'd love to know more about you. What were you like growing up in Sheffield? What were you like at 11?
Why 11?
That's just a number.
Just why not?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I have no idea. I don't know what I was like last year. With ascending years, my memory is just depleting. So I can't tell you what I was like at 11.
Well, just what stuff made an impression on you at a younger age that helped form the CK that we know today?
I don't necessarily know that anything formed an impression that I can remember. I just have always gravitated towards performance and expression, creative expression in some form. I can't draw, but I always remember scribbling. I think the earliest expression of said art was always acting. In the school plays, you know, my earliest memory of acting and performing was playing the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk at was it infant school? Maybe. I would have been maybe 8 or 9. That's my earliest memory. And I remember just people like, CK has to play the giant. I mean, they wouldn't have said CK, they'd have said Chin. Because, by the way, for the record, so CK is short for my first name and my middle name, Chinadu Kevin. So I was Chin till I was 18. Then I just got bored of it and I thought, right, I am CK. I don't know what made me say that. It was work experience, and the first day, you know what work experience is, right? I don't know if you have that here.
It's like in school, you do volunteer work, basically?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. For like 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And like, first day, what's your name? For some reason, CK came out, and I've never been called CK until that point. It was like something happened. I want to be CK from now on, and it's weird. It never changed from then. Anyway, I don't know why that's got anything to do with anything, but yeah. So Chin has to be the giant. Chin is the man for the giant. I remember that. So
were you as tall then as you are now?
No, I've never necessarily been the tallest. I think I've always been reasonably average. But yeah. So creative expression, drama, performance has always been something I've gravitated towards. Speaking
of acting, I know that you sort of auditioned for a show for I think it was Black Lightning. I think our audience will get a kick out of it.
Dude, how do you even know that?
I happen to watch some of your videos today.
Today?
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I forget that more than I should, and when I say more than I should, it's like one of those things that could serve as currency. Oh, like you know, like when if you want to presume like you're bigger than you are. Oh, by the way, I was almost the lead villain in a CW production.
Yeah.
That was so bizarre, but yeah. So anybody that's familiar with Black Lightning of CW, Tobias Whale is the main villain. And I knew nothing about the parts until someone just sent me a tweet to an audition in London saying, CK, you fit this bill, because they were looking for someone between 30 and 40, acting experience isn't necessary, male, and most critical of all, the part required someone that was an albino, which is what I am. That doesn't come across on a podcast. Well, we don't sound different, we just look different.
They'll see the video, hopefully.
Well, I hope so. True. And I remember looking at it, and this is a story I enjoy, because I need to remind myself of this. I remember looking at that audition when someone sent me the tweet. She's actually a film producer in the UK, London. She sent me the tweet, and I looked at it, and I was like, oh, I have no acting experience. This isn't for me. And I remember I was sitting in a pub doing some work at the time, and I thought, yeah, what's the point? And then my next thought was, well, how long is it going to take you to send an email? It's like going to probably take you 15-20 seconds, and it could potentially change the course of your life. I mean, I wasn't holding out any hope, but the theory is still true. You could change things, right, in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to send off an email, because that was quite a compelling argument I had with myself. Right? So I thought, I'm going to send this email, which I did. And I said, hey, I'm CK. I've just seen your tweet requesting casting and actors. I'm not an actor. I want to put that on. I was very like
honest.
Full disclosure and honest. Like I'm not an actor. But I do create videos on YouTube. I create content that people find engaging. Here's some links. If you're not interested, all the very best. Good luck. Thank you. Love CK. And within an hour, CK, I've just had a look at the links you've sent me. There's something about you. It's really interesting. Please come in for an audition. So I went in for the audition. She sent me some, I think the technical term is sides. You know, when they send you like the script bits that they want you to learn.
Okay.
So CK, could you please learn this? And I said, do you want me to do an American accent? Because I can't. And he said, well, we know you're British, and I understand you can't do an American accent, but if you can just try, that would help. And I'm thinking, I didn't want to hear that. I wanted you to say, yeah, do it in your accent. We'll figure that out. I was like, oh, God, all right. So I turned up. Said, are you comfortable? Right, let's start. So she would do the lines of the other person in the part, and she wanted me to do the Tobias Whale. And I was really nervous. I said, I can't really do this accent. She said, just try. In her defence, she was so encouraging, and she had a great accent as well. She's British, but she was great at the American accent. So the more I listened to her, the more I could pick it up. Anyway, so I did the audition for maybe 5 to 10 minutes, left, thought nothing of it. then I started to think, I've not heard back from them yet, and it was like 5 days later. That's a shame. Oh well, never mind. Let's move on. And I think later that day, I got an email saying, CK, I've sent the audition to the US producers. They really liked you. They'd like you to come in for a second audition. So I went in for the second audition the next day. She'd given me some new sides to learn. The first thing she said when she saw me, CK, I'm not going to lie to you, everyone in this agency's like when you came in the first time, we just thought it would be like you could bolster our numbers to get auditions. No one really necessarily thought anything of it. Then the minute that they said they were really into you, which we agree with because you did do a great audition, we're all now like on Team CK, like it'd be awesome, like if you got cast in this thing. So we're really just want you to do really well. So let's go nail the second interview. So I did the second audition, still struggled with the accent, but she was an amazing coach. I think she was called Claire. She was so good and so patient. Did the audition, and at this point I'm thinking, all of a sudden I'm closer than I was like a week ago. Anyway, long story short, in the end it went to a US rapper called Crondon, who's friends with Snoop. so he's got friends in the right places.
Right.
But in his defense, there's a video on this as well online. If you search CK Goldiing Tobias Whale audition, there's like me talking through the whole process and how I feel about the guy that got the role. And I'm not just saying this for the sake of it. The guy that got the part is epic.
He's good.
Have you seen it?
I've watched it.
Do you watch the series or?
I watched the first season.
Oh, because I've not. I've just seen clips online. I don't know anything. I'm not even watched a single episode.
Yeah.
But the clips I've seen with him, it's like I couldn't do that. Fact. Mm-hmm. I think he's great. Do you agree? I mean, because I've only seen clips. How is he as a series cast?
I think he was pretty good.
Yeah, totally agree. And all the clips I've seen, it's like this guy's killing it.
Right.
No wonder he got the role. It's like, no wonder. So, but it was such a wonderful experience, and that's like what I said before we started discussing this. Is I remind myself of that a lot because you know what I said about I'm not an actor, so what's the point? Just think about how far along that process I got just by at least sending the email.
Exactly.
It's one of those, you got to buy a ticket to win the lottery, I guess.
Right.
And I would love to be the guy that always leaps on every given opportunity, but I'm not. I'm the guy that has to have that inner dialogue not every single time, but most of the time. But I want to become more of the guy that actually it's just automatic. Of course I'll send an email.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we had dinner last night after the festival, and we had talked about Gary Vaynerchuk, right?
Correct.
And he always says about having an at-bat. You have a chance there to make something happen, So you did that with that audition.
You're absolutely right, and we both shared our admiration and enjoyment of Gary's content. Mm-hmm. And the Atbat Principle, for the record, is exactly why I'm here in San Diego, and I've made no qualms about. I've been quite proud of myself actually, because I'm quite a personal guy that likes to keep his own shit to himself. By the way, can I say shit?
Sure, that's fine. We'll put it explicit for this one.
That's mostly the case when I'm a guest on anything, to be fair. But when Susie invited,
I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh my god, I just hear it all.
I mean, she's more interesting than me. Anyway, so a lot of noise in the background. So when Susie invited me to come to San Diego, at the time it wasn't necessarily financially viable. It wouldn't have been like the wisest decision. But I thought, do you know what? Just say yes, and then just let the universe figure out the whys and the whys and the hows and the financials and all of that business. And ironically, within like 1 to 2 days of me sending Susie a yes and just hoping that the universe would bring me work, because I work for myself as a PR specialist beyond the content. That's how I, like a new client dropped in, which is why I'm here. So it was just really fascinating that and that's not like me, by the way. I'm the last guy to say yes and figure it out later. That's not my personality. But I do admire people who do have that personality, because I do generally think it opens up more opportunities. And because of that, that's why it's like, I'm very aware that you can be any kind of guy you want. So if I admire those kind of guys, they'll just be that kind of guy, right? So because I admire people say, just figure it out later, just say yes, I thought I admire those kind of guys. I will be that guy. And like I said, the minute I said yes, the next day a client just drops out of the sky. So that's the Atbat Principle, right?
Right. My friend, he does this panel at Comic-Con every year on how to pitch and promote yourself.
Sure.
And one of the things that he says is, sometimes you have to fake your way through the truth, but you should be able to back yourself up along the way too. eventually.
How do you mean back yourself up?
Like, when you're trying to sort of, you may not know everything, is like you said.
Sure.
You take that chance, but he says you should be able to BS your way to the truth.
I really like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, and there's a new derivative of, we're all familiar with the fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
Well, my friend has a nuanced flip on that, and I'm just trying to remember what it is because it's quite profound's a bit of an overstatement, but I'll figure it out and I'll drop it in. Maybe I'll figure it out and drop it in. But it's an extension of what you just said. What did you say that again? What is it?
It's like
BS.
BS your way to the truth.
Okay.
when you're trying to fake it till you make it.
Sure. I think. But actually, I don't think the two are the same. I think there is a clear distinction between fake your way to the truth, and I think the difference between that and fake it till you make it is fake it till you make it suggests you might just make it because you get lucky, but your version is like you've always got that underlying talent, skill, affinity for something, but nobody can necessarily see it yet, so you need to just kind of do what you need to do till people see it. That's how I draw a distinction. I don't know if you agree with that.
I can see that. But either way, it's all about, execution, You need to take action. And I'm glad you took action to come to the States.
This is the thing, though, and this is the thing. It's like the reason I was willing to say yes and then let the universe figure it out is because it wasn't necessarily, oh, great, I'll be in a room full of people who can see my film. It wasn't that. It was actually because I anticipated stuff like this, like you and I hanging out. Not you specifically, but opportunities of this ilk.
Sure.
And when I say opportunities, I don't mean like opportunities for me to talk and be seen. I mean just this kind of engagement is what I love, right? Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, go to San Diego for 7 days. It's very unlikely you won't stumble across something cool like this podcast. Right, it's very unlikely you won't stumble across something cool like when we were just talking to Erin. Yeah. For you guys listening to this, Erin is I don't know if
our waitress.
Is waitress cool? I don't want to. I don't know if they're like drink supervisors nowadays.
Our waitress is pretty cool.
Okay, but you see my point, right? So I was like, so many cool things are going to happen beyond the film, and the way the film was received yesterday kind of blew my mind, to be honest. Like, you Americans know how to lose yourself in a film. Oh my Jesus! Woof. But it's all the little incidental things that have happened around the main reason I'm here that I was really excited about, and they've all manifested. That's the thing. It's like they've all like some of the. I don't even know if I feel like I should give you an exclusive. I'm going to give you an exclusive, right?
Okay.
And this will either blow your mind or you'll be like, so what? Let me tell you what happened.
Sure.
2 days ago, I got on a bus to San Diego Old Town.
Okay.
Right? And I was that bus stop there, we can see it from where we are, right? That bus stop there, I was standing there, and then this guy came along. He looked slightly unkept. Not homeless, but just slightly unkept. And he said, have you been waiting long? And I said, yeah, about 3 minutes, but I know that there's a bus due in like 7, so you've not got long to wait. Then suddenly out of the blue he goes, what's your fucking problem? But he wasn't saying it to me, he was talking about a guy that just drove past him, because he said, I hate people just staring at me for no reason, which is what that guy just suddenly did. He was staring at me for no reason, and it bugs me, and it's been happening more ever since my hair got quite long. So then we just started having this discussion about like why he suddenly got long hair. I said I liked his shirt, he said he got it from the trash. It was just bizarre. We were talking more and more on the bus. I did a little video with him. Then we got off the bus and I asked him why he's no longer in the military, which I discovered he was while we were doing the video on the bus. I said, why no longer in the military?
Right.
And then he told me. Then as the conversation progressed, it manifested that when he was 11, and this is where the big cliffhanger comes in, dude. Mm-hmm. When he was 11, he killed a 14-year-old boy because he was being bullied.
Oh, wow.
So this guy who's been talking to for the last 20 minutes has been bullied by this 14-year-old guy, and it just got too much, and he just, in his words, smashed his head against the wall. It's just getting like really heavy. Uh-huh. And I'm like videoing this talk with this guy, and he's just telling me everything about how the judge was going to throw him in an adult prison, but he gave him the option to. The judge said to him, okay, you've had like a pretty shitty background. They could see that from the records, and it was proven that he'd had a really crap background. So he's like, you really didn't have much chance. I'm going to give you a chance. Here are your two options. You either go to an adult prison, or you join the services. and he took the services, and he's telling me this whole thing, and he's just opening up to me, saying, "CK, I don't know what it is about you, man. He's like, I like this guy. Like, I'm just telling you this stuff. I just like CK. It's just weird." So there's this, but there's this video going on. He's telling me all this stuff. He's like telling me how if he had time again, that kid did need it. Like that kid he killed did need a slap, but he didn't need to be killed. Like that kid had parents, that kid had family, that kid had brothers, sisters. Like he definitely needed a slap. He didn't deserve to be killed by me. And he's just opening up with all this stuff. I'm like, I mean, I didn't come to San Diego for this, but I'm getting it, and this is exactly what I'm saying to you. It's not, I didn't expect that particular exchange, but I always know that whenever I'm places and I'm open to things, then the things generally come. But it's like, I just wanted to give you that exclusive.
No, thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Because I don't know when that video is going to land, but it's definitely going to land like after this podcast will come out before that video does, anyway.
But you definitely hit something on a nail about being open to things. I mean, I think that's pretty much what you're all about, anyway.
To a point, yeah, and it's with increase, yeah. I mean, I say to a point. The reason I said to a point was very specific, actually, but this is something I'm trying to change a lot. I'm not, despite the fact that I do these challenges and projects which leave me vulnerable to the universe and whatever storyline the universe is going to plan out for me, I very rarely talk about me in my personal life and like the crap I'm going to, because I'm not that guy that necessarily wants to or feels comfortable doing it. But by the same token, just the other day I had a talk with one of my best mates, just saying to him that I just laid my cards on the table, and I said to him, I'm nowhere near where I expected to be at this age, and I was kind of just be honest with him, saying I just feel like a bit of a bum. And like, he knows full well, thank you, he knows full well that's not like me to have that conversation. So he was like, mate, I've never been as proud of you because I know that this isn't you. He's like, I've never known you have that, I've never known you say anything like that to me before, and I genuinely, I can't believe how, I'm just really surprised. So what I'm saying is, I am open to the universe in the context of projects and cool things that people will enjoy, but I don't really like my innards and personality being centre stage.
Got you. I mean, for me, from my perspective, I think you have a really high emotional IQ,
Right.
And I think that's what lets you sort of tune in to things around that's around you, quite easily. I think you tap into the sort of I don't know what you call it. I don't know. It's like you can connect so easily with people, even though you're sort of reticent to sort of, I know you have your especially with your movie, 61 Hugs, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Sure.
It's like you have your own personal things going on inside, but you're still willing to, even though it's not about you, it's all about those connections that you make with other people, and I think that's really awesome.
Well, I mean, I'm fascinated by I don't know, how can I put this without sounding like really self-obsessed? I'm fascinated by, what do you pick up on that makes you say, what was the term used? High emotional what?
It's
intelligence?
Emotional IQ.
Emotional IQ.
Yeah.
Tell me more about what you meant by that specifically, because I'm fascinated.
Well, it's like Gary Vaynerchuk, actually. That's where I got it from.
Yes.
He's able to talk to people because he picks up on little things that people emit, and how they're feeling, how they're the cues, I guess. And then he can connect with them with some of the messaging that he's trying to say. Or cater toward. He may go into a conversation thinking one way, but after talking to somebody, he'll flip it, and then he'll cater it toward that person.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think you have that ability. Okay.
I would strongly agree. Actually, I think it's quite impressive that in the short space of time that we've known each other, we've not had lengthy discussions, that you just straight out of the bat just dropped it out. I don't necessarily know but maybe that's because you do too have that. Would you say you do?
I think I do.
Sure. Makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it's true. I haven't known you for too long, but I did watch a bunch of your videos today also.
Sure.
So I get a little bit of an inkling of what at least that part of the CK that you sort of choose to show to the world.
Sure.
And that video, you talked about vulnerability earlier. I watched that video about when you talked about vulnerability. I guess that I don't know if it's a keynote speech, but a little presentation you had.
Okay, sure.
That was pretty cool.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah. So that's a video that hasn't necessarily I mean, I'm not in this for the numbers or the views,
Sure.
but it's one of those videos that I really believe in, and I know. Since I did that video, so for context and your listeners, that's a keynote I did in either 16 or 17, and it was to a audience of creators. It was me sharing how I create content to a certain blueprint, and how content that's underpinned by creativity, originality and vulnerability, where I'm vulnerable and I could be rejected or I could be told to go screw myself, whatever, like humans, they tend to be the kind of content that audiences gravitate to and really feel a connection to. And since I did that keynote, like I'd done about 2 or 3 projects with the exact same ingredients, including, by the way, that would have been really interesting from someone that's watched 61 Hugs, right?
Yeah.
So listen to that retrospectively, because
Right.
61 Hugs features all the things I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like a proven, it's almost like a proven cocktail that just works. And it's really fascinating that I said that 3 years ago, and 61 Hugs is literally according to that blueprint. Yeah.
I guess this would be a good segue to talk about 61 Hugs. If you don't mind, I'll read a little bit about that you have on this little flyer here.
Sure.
And the back says, crippled by a lifetime of overthinking, CK is a typical artist, forever worried about rejection, people's perceptions, and how things look. One day, he is challenged to leave the house, walk the busy streets, and ask 61 strangers for a hug. Although terrified by the inevitable rejections ahead, CK accepts, clinging to his long-standing belief that overthinking is the enemy of remarkable. Filmed in one take, using actual footage from the challenge, 61 Hugs demonstrates the remarkable power of optimism. Optimism is actually my favorite word. Heart, goodwill, human, spirit, spontaneity, and the universe. So, yeah, it was an awesome film.
What did you just say about optimism? Sorry, Aaron.
I said optimism was my favorite word.
It's one of your favourite words.
It is my favorite word.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, without revealing too much, I mean, I want people to go online and watch it, and especially with the reveal at the end. I mean, can you tell us about, 61 Hugs in your own words?
Sure. So, where should I start? I mean, that synopsis that Aaron just read is on the back of the official flyer, and I feel it does allude to what happens in it just fine. Mm-hmm. So I am a huge overthinker, as we've already outlined just now, and for me to say, do you know what, I'm going to say yes to the San Diego offer and I'll figure out the financials later. God, that's so unlike me. It's like the minute I had that thought, I was like, well, what if the universe doesn't? Well, who's to say that? Blah, 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 blah. What if you say yes and then you don't figure out the financials, and you've said yes to Susie, you've got to say no, and then so all these thoughts suddenly started conspiring against me, and that's just my default as a thinker. And so the idea for 61 Hugs came to me when this was the first. So all of my content is unscripted, Aaron, okay? So by unscripted, I mean I don't make narrative projects where there's a storyline that somebody writes, then recruits actors to execute that, script. Mm-hmm. All of my content is purely and simply an idea, and me and the universe and strangers for the most part. And let's just see what kind of outcome will come from those raw ingredients. So 61 Hugs is exactly the same, and this was the first time that the idea was given to me from an outside source. And by an outside source, I mean I always come up with the ideas myself. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if I went to London with just £100 and saw how long I could survive, which is probably the biggest thing. Well, that's the first big project I did in 2015. It turned out I could survive 6 months. Turns out I could survive 6 months in London with £100, and that was again me, strangers, the universe, and just creating this wonderful storyline that played out.
Lots of couch surfing, right?
Lots of
couch surfing.
Couch surfing, correct. Well, predominantly like 90% hostels, 10% couch surfing.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was the first time a project came from an outside source, and the project or the challenge was, CK, what if you left your house and asked 61 strangers for a hug? And the minute the idea came to me, two things happened. One, I knew it had the potential to be remarkably beautiful, because it's like whether I get rejected by 61 people, whether I get rejected by 20 people, whether I get rejected by 40 or 5, either way, it's going to be a compelling watch. So I knew it had that going for it. So once I had that thought, the next thought was, okay, great, there's something potentially compelling here, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen because you're too scared. I have no shame saying that. Like that was 100% the inner dialogue. It's a shame that's such a good idea because you're not going to do it.
Right. So how long did it take for you to convince yourself to actually do it?
So the challenge was given to me on, when was it? I think it was Tuesday the 12th of May I did it, and it was definitely the day before. I know for a fact it was the day before because I remember this was the shortest period of time I've ever had between an idea coming to me and doing it. Because normally there's a gestation period and I need to kind of, whatever. But in this instance, there was nothing stopping me from doing it the next day because it didn't need any kit, it didn't need any gear, it didn't need any logistics, I didn't have to travel anywhere, it was literally leave your house, right? So there was nothing stopping me from doing it the next day, and that was a blessing because there was this. Sometimes you can talk yourself out of an idea because of the logistics. Yes. Like you can say, "Oh, I'll do that in June because I need to figure out a camera guy," or I'll do that in October because I need to travel to London and I can't travel to London because I've got work to do, right? Right. You'll almost use obstacles as a reason not to do it. But because 61 Hugs had none of that, I was like, oh, so you're either going to do it or you're not. Now, which is it? You've got no reason to bail out on this.
Right.
So I thought, do you know what? I trust the universe. And although I'm terrified, I think there's something spectacular waiting to meet me. And when I say meet me, I mean like the project, whatever it happens to be, good, bad, or indifferent. There's something remarkable awaiting me. Something I've discovered is that there are always remarkable things waiting on the other side of fear. And despite the fact I know that sometimes doesn't matter to me. I'm still too... But anyway, on this instance, I knew there was something waiting for me. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go and find out what that thing is. And the only reason I was willing to step beyond my fear is because of that conversation I mentioned during the filming, during the festival yesterday. Yeah. The most critical conversation I had that propelled me into doing this was I said to myself, okay, I know you're scared of walking out and asking complete strangers for quite an intimate act, i.e. a hug, an embrace. Yes. I know you're scared of that, but let me ask you this, CK. How do people normally respond to you? Obviously, you've never asked strangers for a hug like in huge numbers before, but normally, how do strangers respond? Like if you meet someone for the first time, how does that normally play out? In the street, do people randomly start talking to you for no reason? How are you with people you don't know? And the answer to that was really simple. It's like, usually awesome things happen. It's just weird. Maybe it comes back to that EQ you were talking about earlier on, with no exceptions, the interactions I have with people I've only just met are always positive. And once I had that conversation and I literally couldn't find any evidence to counter it, I was suddenly all out of excuses. I was like, oh, okay, fine. You know how Gary talks about pattern recognition all the time? My pattern recognition in this instance was every time you've done a challenge that you were terrified about the first time and you did it, it was always awesome. And I think pattern recognition is one of my favourite things Gary talks about because in my instance, it always plays out to be accurate. So my pattern recognition prior to 61 Hugs was every challenge you've done, including the 6 months with on 100 quid, that was the most frightened I've ever been in my life before the day I left to go to London. I've never been that terrified. And that turned out to be remarkable. So, after this inner searching, right, okay, tomorrow you're going to do this 61 Hugs thing. You're going to do it tomorrow, otherwise you'll never do it. So I went out and did it.
So, I'm curious, mentally, are you prepared for, the rejection part? Yeah.
Sorry.
Are you mentally prepared for the rejection part?
In the context of 61 Hugs or generally in life?
Just generally.
No.
For your challenges.
I'm not. Okay, so here's the interesting point. Wonderful question. Okay, here's another exclusive. You're getting all the good stuff. There's one area of life that I am terrified of rejection, and this is like, I've never said this publicly. Like when it comes to like asking someone out on a date, like I'm shit. I'm like the worst, right? And that element of rejection kind of cripples me to the point where I very rarely ask people out, right? However, the rejection in the context of a challenge doesn't bother me, and the reason for that is it's like almost the best way I can explain it is that I know that even that, okay, if I ask someone out on a date and she says no, there's no positive to that. None. Right? There's just none. Right? But if I set out on a challenge and I'm rejected, as a writer and a creator, the positive to that rejection is the viewer finds that funny.
I see.
Right? So I can't lose. I almost want rejections. Like within 61 Hugs, for example, although I knew that it was very likely that I'd get some great warmth. I didn't expect the level of warmth that's in that film by any stretch, but I always knew that some people wouldn't be open to it. It's just the law of average. It's just a numbers game. Mm-hmm. There's no way everybody's going to be open to it. But I was happy with that because I wanted however the film turned out, I wanted it to have light and shade.
True.
You know, I've said this many times. If that film turned out that every 61 or all of them said yes, it just wouldn't be as interesting. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah.
It's real. It's life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I'm like acutely aware of what makes interesting content, and I know that 61 Hugs with 61 yeses would just be garbage. And moreover, I think anybody watching that film with 61 yeses would get to the end of it and think, "Wow, I've just like wasted 23 minutes watching a clear hoax." Right? it's like no one's believing that.
Yeah. I mean, going back to 61 Hugs, I was, we talked about it on the Q&A for your movie. Sheffield is pretty diverse, and you talk to a bunch of different types of people. We had somebody who was in a wheelchair, an elderly lady, people from different races, men, women. So it was like the full spectrum, pretty much.
And I'm so thankful for the universe because I had as you can appreciate, I had no control over any of that. Mm-hmm. I just asked humans, and someone, I mean, I'm so grateful for that because going back to what I just said about light, shade, and again, and texture, like texture to the piece, I love the fact that it has, as you say, so many races, so many ages, so many sexes, diversity, and I'm so grateful for that. And the universe has a lot to answer for that film. I think it's a co-producer in that film. I just genuinely, if not like the exec, it's like the universe literally had my back. But back to what I was saying, within the context of my project, rejection doesn't necessarily bother me because it's something that I think there's just only going to be positive to come out of it. Mm. How do you feel about asking out women, by the way, Aaron? Now I've shared, it's your turn.
I think I'm naturally shy.
Okay.
Maybe reserved is more the correct word, but I mean, if I can ask a woman out, but it's like I don't want to like bother her if she's having fun with her friends or something like that.
If she's
having fun with her friends or something like that, I don't want to.
Oh, sure.
But
so in the context of a bar, you wouldn't walk up to someone you find super attractive and say, "Hey, I'm Aaron. You find me interesting, don't you?" I mean, I wouldn't say that anyway. Aaron's like, even if she was alone, I wouldn't.
No. If she was, if we like make eye contact or we happen to make small talk, and then I can build up to something. But more often than that, I'm more on the reserve side, to be honest. But
the mechanics of asking someone out, if all it doesn't necessarily. I don't know.
No.
It's not okay.
It's not debilitating for me.
It's not what?
It's not debilitating for me.
Cool. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. But going back to your movie.
Pardon?
Going back to 61 Hugs.
Aaron's like, this isn't about me. This is.
But Susie asked a question to you yesterday about how, your decision to make it black and white, and I know that based on the way you love to film, it's like just run and gun, pretty much guerrilla style, just spur of the moment, and so you don't want to mess around with the looks and the aesthetics too much. You want it to be honest and truthful. But for me, I'm glad that you decided to make it black and white, just because I think sometimes when there's color, there's too much stimuli. When it's black and white, you have a chance to see all the different reactions more focused, I think. So I think that was a benefit, even though you don't want to like mess with the technology and the production too much. But I think it actually helped your movie.
Have you? I don't know how much outside reading you've done on me. Have you seen the interview when I outlined that as being one of the key reasons?
No.
Are you sure?
No.
You're not cheating?
I'm not cheating.
You're not cheating? I think you're cheating.
I'm not.
Because I've legitimately said that as a reason.
Oh,
so,
really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I found that really interesting, and I just don't know how much outside reading you've done.
No.
Because the primary reason I made it black and white didn't turn out to be the best reason I made it black and white. So what I mean by that is, I mentioned yesterday that I went for black and white because it was filmed on my phone, and film footage, especially on the phone I use, which is Samsung S6, is great. It takes great video, but it still looks a little less filmic than I would like from a colour perspective.
I see.
Now, but because I don't characterise myself, and again, this is for the benefit of you're going to hear the same thing I said yesterday, but this is for your audience.
Go for it.
I don't characterise myself as a traditional filmmaker in the same way most of the people at yesterday's festival would, who are super clued up on tech, on gear, and are really aware and are so dexterous with the business of making a film, about sound editing, about colour correcting specifically. I'm not really into any of those things. Most of them bore me, actually. Like, I'm all about how is this thing going to make any human feel. I can't explain. Like, whenever I have an idea, the tech, the gear, the mechanics, the film, the shots, the colour, the sound, I don't even think I ever think about that. Even while I'm editing it, I'm not thinking about that stuff. The only thing I'm interested in is how is Erin going to feel about this piece of content. Now, for your audience, Erin, how do you like to characterise yourself? Like bar staff, weight, I don't know.
I'd like to classify myself as probably a server.
Server.
Yeah.
So it's like, so Erin just walked over and I'm like, okay, so how is this piece of content going to make Erin feel? That's all I'm bothered about when it comes to creating content. So, you know, the text and the mechanics, so don't bother me. So anyway, so because it looked like it was clearly filmed.
This is a film that he made called 61 Hugs.
Erin, and I want you to go home and watch it.
Yeah.
Then I want you to say hi to me on Instagram with either CK, this was awesome, or CK, why did you waste my time?
Absolutely not.
What do you mean?
I believe in giving 600 hugs a day, so I think I might be into this.
Ooh, 600?
600.
Look at Erin with the
hugger.
sequel.
I'm quite the hugger. I'm not even going to lie.
God, really?
Yeah.
This might be the film for
It's
you.
called a bear hug.
This might...
Every fucking time.
Really?
Every time. Never disappoints.
I'm telling you, this is the thing. So you're asking me why was it in black and white, and yeah, so I decided to just go for black and white because I don't want to mess around with colour. I can't be bothered to figure out the colour correction. But then once I did that, I instantly realised this unified everyone. As in, like, and I remember saying in a recent interview, like, once you turn something black and white, you're not distracted by, oh, that yellow dress is great, or look how beautifully red her hair is. Like, you're not bothered about that. You're just looking at the moment and the interactions and the humanity. And the fact you just picked up on that is odd. Which is why I think you're doing some extra reading, dude. Because I remember saying that in an interview.
I didn't cheat, man. I just picked up on it, I guess.
Well, nice. That's the creator in you.
Yeah.
But that's what I wish I could be so smart and say I went for black and white because it would unify everyone, but I went for black and white because I'm lazy. I went for black and white because I'm lazy and I had no desire to colour correct. It just happens to be a benefit that it unified everybody and you couldn't get distracted and it focused you on the humanity. And bravo. Yeah. And Erin with her bear hugs is going to check it out. What time do you finish?
I'm off at 10, but I would love to watch it tonight. I'll be sure to smoke a doobie as I do so. It'll be wonderful. Yeah, I said it. We're in California. It's legal, my guy. It's fine.
And where are we right now?
We're in San Diego, California at the PB Local. This is my place of work. It's quite nice. It's quite airy. It's by the beach. You can smell salt water.
So if you're ever vacationing like CK is here, come to PB Local. And
I promise you won't be disappointed. Like I said, I'm rad. I am rad.
Well, thank you for being our server tonight.
You guys have been literally splendid in every way possible. I came to bring you water. Just make sure you don't get sick. Lord knows you don't need that. I can't promise that. Well, because you're sitting here, you're telling me that you're cold, and that's a problem. Because when you sit by the water and you have this cold air, I want to make sure that you're not getting sick because you're not drinking that tea anymore. So clearly, we got to put fluids in you at some point or another.
Look,
and you don't drink beer, so
Erin's working for a 20%. I'll tell you.
I'm definitely I'm working for character. Point blank. Period.
Character. You have plenty of that.
Well, like I said, I don't like to disappoint, so
we never got to the. I asked you what your creative outlet was, and you started talking about water and swimming. But do you have any performance in you? Do you have any? I know it's a horrible cliche, so forgive me if I go down the cliche route. Do you have any actress in you?
I think I'm pretty funny. Yeah.
Oh, so you have comedian in you?
Definitely.
Oh, okay.
My verbal banter and my witty sarcasm will win every time.
So if you had the option to travel down actor road or comedian road, would you go down comedian road?
Absolutely not.
Oh, because you want the money?
No, because I think I could do way more than just make someone laugh.
Okay, that's really interesting.
If all you're good at is making people laugh and making fun of yourself, by all means go the comedic route. But if you know that you can turn something at the flip of a dime, and you know that you can go from being crazy cute and quirky,
sure,
and then you want to jump over to comedic style, like what's her name, Melissa McCarthy?
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Poke fun.
Actress. Okay.
Cool.
I told you I'd still choose to be an unclassified mermaid. I'd go to Wiki Wiki Springs in Florida, and I'd put on a tail, and I would just perform for everyone all day long.
I don't know what Wiki Wiki.
Wiki Wiki Springs, it's a real place in Florida, and there are women that will put on tails, and they put on actual acrobats underwater as mermaids.
Okay,
And they put on makeup and like little bralettes and shells and stuff. It's wonderful.
So are you saying that you actually did that, or
No, it would be a dream.
Oh, okay.
It would be a definite dream.
No, I was just thinking, because I was meant to fly back on Wednesday, but I'm thinking I might push it back a little.
I think you should
I
too.
might take a trip. So maybe I'll fly back on Saturday. Make a trip to Wiki Wiki. What?
Wiki Wiki Springs. Wiki Wiki Springs.
Wiki Wiki Springs. Yeah.
That's on the other
If
side
I
of
have
the
to, if
United
I'm going to
States.
go home and watch 61 Hugs, you have to go home and research Wiki Wiki Springs.
I mean, that's a fair trade.
I think it's a good idea.
Really
You
fair.
won't
trade.
be
You know what I mean?
disappointed. It's a pretty good movie.
I don't think I'll be disappointed.
Wiki-
61 Hugs. The word hugs is in. I fucking in.
I love how into hugs you are.
I told you. People were like,
Let's do a group hug right now.
What do you? I wonder what. Okay, let's do that.
we're all
It's good to
fucking
meet you.
wonderful. You guys
Yeah.
are splendid individuals. I love that.
As are you.
Thank you. Kindly, good sir.
No worries.
Wonderful. Fucking wonderful. Can't
Cheers,
go back to work.
cheers, Darren.
Okay.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Cheers.
I don't know if you necessarily want that kind of. I mean, if I was in your position doing a podcast, I love that kind of weird rogue nonsense. But some people it bugs, and it's like, well, this isn't about you, but I love it. I mean,
Oh no, I'm open. I'm just like you in some regard. Like whatever happens, doing a podcast, it happens. So
absolutely.
yeah, I don't do much editing. Maybe it's because I'm lazy.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I was going to say it's like me with the color corrector. Nah. That said, we'll have to do a pause. I mean, I definitely need a bathroom break.
Sure, go ahead.
But not now. Let's. I don't know if you. Okay, let's have a pause then.
All right. Cool. Where were we?
Pardon?
Where were we? Dude, how is do you have plans to take the 61 Hugs to other countries?
I have absolutely no plans to do that.
No.
And I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, that question was asked yesterday, right?
Yeah.
At the final day of the International Mobile Film Festival, produced by Susie Botello, who we love. And yeah, I mean, that wasn't the first time the question was asked, but it's having the question asked a few times has got me thinking, am I being too precious about this? Because my default answer to would you do 61 Hugs, the same premise in other countries, is I just can't see how it can be as compelling again. Even if you have a completely different set of responses, whether they're better, they're whatever response, it doesn't matter. I just can't see how it can be as interesting. I'm not saying I'm not saying that my interpretation is right, by the way. So you might say I disagree completely. I think in other countries it'd be equally, if not better, because how can you compare and contrast according to geography?
Sure.
Which is, I don't know if that is your thought process. You're welcome to share with it, but mine is, I don't know.
No. I feel the same with you, but I felt that I needed to ask it just for our audience's sake.
Oh, so you kind of see.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're with me on that one.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So you have no appetite to see 61 Hugs Mexico, for example?
No.
That's really interesting. Okay, it's really interesting. Because I do think some people do have that appetite to see 61 Hugs Mexico or 61 Hugs New York.
To put it in context, I mean, if somebody else were to do 61 Hugs in Mexico, just their version, it would still not have the same impact as yours did.
No, can I just clarify, by the way, I think I need to draw this distinction. I'm not saying that from an arrogant standpoint.
Oh, no, of course not.
I'm like I've set the bar. Like I'm not saying it from that point of view at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
I'm more saying like what else is there to learn and discover? The only thing that's going to happen is you'll either get more yeses. You'll either get more no's, or the same thing will happen. So in both of those instances, what have we seen? Mm-hmm. But then again, maybe a valid argument to that is, well, we've seen how, according to geography, the output is influenced, which is a fair argument, but it's not research I'm that fascinated by.
I think that's what I was sort of going toward. It's sort of relative to you. It's from your perspective.
Okay.
So I mean, when people ask that question, they're thinking that how it can benefit other people, but I mean, you're also part of the equation.
Pardon?
You're also part of the equation as well.
Okay.
You know, because it's like you said, you're doing research for yourself, right?
I do what?
You're doing your research for yourself.
Right.
So I think that's the crux of the argument of you not wanting to do it in other countries because, I mean, personally, you feel like you've done it already.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, absolutely right. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from now.
Yeah.
I absolutely understand where you're coming from. Yeah, 100%. And, you know, what did I say yesterday? I said like, it's not, doing it elsewhere isn't something I'm categorically saying will never ever happen, but by the same token, it's not something I see myself pursuing anytime soon. If that makes sense.
So no 61 kisses then.
I can't even tell you how creepy that sounds.
What other projects do you have on the horizon?
Pardon?
What other projects do you have on the horizon that you can tell our audience about?
Sorry, I just had that pause then because I was thinking there is a slight caveat to what I said, because the only circumstance upon which I could see myself doing a 61 hugs again is if it was like in a really hostile environment. Because I remember, like, someone said like Baltimore, which is apparently the murder capital of the world or something like that. So if it wasn't like just 61 hugs in a very regular place, I'm like, nah, I'm not bothered. But if there was something particularly extreme about it, that it actually would again get me in that position where all of a sudden I'm having to actually overcome something, as in, well, I might get, forgive me if it sounds crass, if suddenly I'm thinking, well, I might get stabbed doing this, like, there's now again I've got to overcome something. It's like, I mean, the main thing I'm overcoming there is life, and it's like that's the only circumstance upon which I can see something actually at least making me consider it, right? Like 61 Hugs Baltimore. I do find that quite seductive, I can't lie. Anyway, so what am I doing next? So I was in a very luxurious position when 61 Hugs came out and it was embraced by so many people, whereby I didn't have to worry about what's next, because I knew what was going to be next before I even had the idea for 61 Hugs, because I've got 3 fully formed ideas. At any given time I have 3 fully formed projects in my head, so they'll not always get produced chronologically. 61 Hugs had the benefit of being able to be produced very quickly. But so I have one which is not going to be self-filmed. I mentioned it yesterday again, called The Train, set in London on the London Underground. And that isn't going to be self-filmed in the way that 61 Hugs was. This is going to be a crew of one other guy, preferably 2, but one will be totally fine. And that's pretty much the limit of what I can say about The Train. But going back to what we discussed earlier on about pattern recognition, every time I think about The Train, I get this feeling of Jesus. I mean, this could be remarkable again. And that isn't like a self-grandiose ego thing. That's just based on what I said to you no more than 10 minutes ago. Like, I don't care about the mechanics or the shots or the cameras. I'm like, how could this make people feel? And like, when I think about the potential for this, I'm like, that could really make people think, shit. That's it. That's the only tick in the box I want as to whether or not I'm going to do something. So, yeah.
So people who know you predominantly for 61 Hugs, I mean, how much do you share about your personal life in terms of your career? That I think you're a photographer, right?
No. So I am a PR consultant for myself. So I have an agency called Icons and Machines, which produces content. So digital content, whether it's promotional video, documentaries, or ad campaigns, but that like accounts for maybe 5 to 10% of what I do. The remaining 90 is profile elevation. So for entrepreneurs, business owners, and through traditional PR, so elevating their profile through press, media, whatever.
How long have you been doing that?
How long?
Yeah.
I would say approaching a year now. And because up until then it was strictly like photography, etc.
Okay. But
like kind of the flavour ran out of the chewing gum with that. Like most things with me, like the flavour runs out. That wasn't a quick one, but it did, and I was like, I remember it like it was yesterday. I think it was a shoot I did in December 2017, and I was like, do I really want to be doing this for the next 3 years? And the answer was no. And the reason that I went down the PR route is I was always pretty adept at securing coverage for my own personal projects, and I just kind of figured out how I was able to do that. And there's no secret about it. It's all about communicating a story rather than communicating facts and figures. So with my clients, I always say to them, I have no desire, and I say I have no desire, and you should have no desire to be communicating your business, your services, your products, and how good they are. You need to be communicating you as a human, what got you to where you are, what are your beliefs, what are your values, because people find that very potent. And once you can communicate your kind of story and your origin story and your beliefs, and you can kind of communicate that in a compelling way, and I say compelling not to say we make stuff up, it's actually just communicating what you do. And then people will find that very seductive, and then they'll discover your business through their own curiosity. So that's all I ever did for myself, and that's what I now do for clients.
So tell me more about the term you sort of coined, hero story.
What were you even talking about to get me onto that? Hero story is, again, okay, the best way I can explain hero story, back to the 100 Musicians Challenge I alluded to in 2015, where I survived 100. Should I just outline for your listeners what that challenge entailed?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I had an idea. I live in Sheffield still, and in 2015, this was at the height of my photography, so I was being commissioned by singer-songwriters, musicians, bands to take their official promo photos, right?
Yeah.
For their gig posters, for their CD covers, whatever. And I had this idea, wouldn't it be interesting if I left my home here in Sheffield, went down to London with just £100, a bag of clothes, my camera, and I invited, or at least I sought out 100 emerging independent singer-songwriters that needed new promo photos, right? The hook was they paid me whatever they wanted. So I had to get from 0 musicians to 100 musicians, shoot them, living off the £100 seed money and their voluntary contributions, right? So London is super expensive. So to keep my overheads low, I was living in hostels because it was like, average of £10 a night. And I was walking everywhere because the underground is quite expensive. So I was walking everywhere to keep my costs down. And so living off the seed money and voluntary contributions. Now, the minute I had that idea, I was in a position where I wanted to start creating content on just do something to be a visible creator. And I remember for as long as God knows how long, I always remember the Mark Zuckerberg story about him tinkering on his computer in his dorm, rating the attractiveness of women, then developing a means by which he could communicate and share scores with his friends. Then that expanded, then that became Facebook. It's the very abridged version. Are you aware of that story?
I heard snippets of that, yeah.
Okay, so that for me, this is a term that I've made up, but this isn't like a technical term. For me, that's a hero story. Like, however far down the line he goes, and however people hate Facebook, everybody's aware of that Genesis story.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking, there's no reason anybody can't have a Genesis story, so what's yours going to be? And then at the same time I was having that conversation, the idea for 100 Musicians came about, and I thought, that would be a great way to start your journey as a creator, to do something that outlandish. Like, whether it's hopefully it'll do well, and if it does do well, that will be your reference points for everything that comes before it. And going back to what I was saying about PR, when I was sharing and when I began the marketing journey for 61 Hugs, I don't have an agent, right? So I have to reach out to press publications on my own behalf. I don't like pretend. It's not like Joanna calling on behalf of CK. It's like very much CK calling on behalf of CK. I don't pretend otherwise. So when I'm writing my own press releases, it's like, for example, CK Goldiing, who's no stranger to outlandish challenges, in 2015 he did this challenge that was featured on Red Bull, BB, blah blah blah. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
So it gives you that anchor point that kind of almost speaks to who you are as a creator, and it kind of gives you a certain degree of credibility isn't the right word, but it's the one I'm going to use because I can't think of what the right word is.
Authenticity, I guess.
So it kind of gives you, it just gives you an anchor point. It's like 100 Musicians has been so kind to me because you can see elements of that in everything I've done since. Okay, and that's for me is what the hero story is. It's kind of something that just follows you around in a very positive way and kind of has its tentacles and everything else you do following on. And by the way, 100 Musicians is so critical because, like I said to you earlier on, I was terrified before I did that. It turned out to be remarkable. So many people followed it, discovered it, enjoyed it. So when it came to 61 Hugs 3 years later, almost exactly 3 years later, and I was terrified of doing that, I remember very acutely thinking, well, what happened the day before you set off on 100 Musicians? You were terrified. But what happened? You were it turned out to be remarkable. So that enabled me to think, okay, I'll just trust that fear that it'll be okay.
Are you addicted to your challenges?
To challenges?
Yes.
It would be easy for me to say yes because I know that's the cooler answer, but the true answer is no. Like, I wouldn't say I'm addicted. I would say I find them intoxicating. And for me, the distinction is if I had to stop doing them tomorrow for whatever reason that might be, I wouldn't feel worthless or helpless. I'd just be very pissed off.
Understood. I gotcha.
So there you go.
Although, what about that cinnamon cake? Are you addicted to that cinnamon apple? Was that cinnamon cake that you're eating?
Say that again.
I watched one of your Vita.
Yeah, video every day now.
Yeah, I think you're eating like a cake or something, and I think you seemed pretty intoxicated by that.
I mean, I'm genuinely trying to remember what happened. I do remember something about I don't know, but yeah. I mean, listen.
Oh, I think somebody had sent you a hat. I think, and you're unboxing that. I think
someone sent me a hat.
Yeah.
Oh, with Snickers. Was it Snickers?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're eating it, but you had a cake warming up in the microwave or the oven or something like that.
I was putting something in the oven.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so you set your timer, saying you got 5 minutes to,
tell you a story.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I remember that. I remember enjoying that video, but I can't remember what I spoke about while my thing was cooking. Can you?
Yeah.
Because I was talking about something while my cake.
I think it had to do with the two. One of the females that visited you here in San Diego.
Oh, was I talking about Shanna?
Yeah.
And was that about how you grow your audience by engaging with them properly?
Probably, but I think I know it was either that one or the next one because I remember you were talking to somebody about that. But it was just interesting to see you all you want to do is eat your cake, but then you also as you're unboxing this box, more things were coming out, and he's like.
Oh, was I shamelessly peddling my merch?
No. She had sent you a hat that she made, the CK hat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, okay. There's a lot of fragments with this. I do remember, but I still genuinely can't remember what I was talking about in that video. I wish I did though, because I remember enjoying making that video, and I remember people enjoyed it as well. But I can't remember what I was talking about.
No, but it was pretty cool that some of your fans came to visit you here in San Diego.
Oh, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean. And this is the thing. This is the thing about being This is the thing about being an unknown creator. And I need to give this context. And I'm slightly proud and slightly annoyed in equal measure by my anonymity. like nobody's gonna see you're talking to CK Goldiing and get excited. Like nobody, other than maybe people that were at the festival. Because I'm not like a known dude, right? So I'm acutely aware of my anonymity. So because of that, the fact that people do discover me online and feel a connection to what I do, to the point, by the way, that when I come over to the UK, they're willing to travel over here. She lives in
Orange County, I think.
Orange County.
Yeah.
So Vanessa, I didn't know. So Shanna is the person that's been following me online for a while, but she also came with her cousin Vanessa, who lives in Orange County.
Okay.
And Shanna lives in LA.
I think it was LA.
LA, yeah. So both of them, Vanessa 2-hour drive, Shanna was whatever, 2 hours. Regardless, if they travel 10 minutes, but the fact I was like, wow, it's like it feels unlikely for me. And what I mean by that is it feels unlikely as a dude that isn't anonymous for people to feel that level of connection to your stuff that they're willing to travel and come and hang out and pay for tickets to come and see no films. She came on the Sunday when there was no screening.
Yeah.
It was just literally the final day when it was more about the Q&A sessions, and my film was screened, to be fair, but she's seen it about 3 times anyway, so nothing new there. But yes, thank you for noticing that. And I think your exact term was, it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty special. It's beautiful, and I'm so grateful. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, even for myself, it's like, I have a small little podcast, and I have a small little, community that I'm trying to build with the Comic-Con Fit. And when people that I haven't met physically, they only know them online, or they know me online, they actually make an effort to come see me at a convention, and they introduce themselves. That's it's really humbling for me anyway.
Yes, and going back to what I was just saying about how for me it feels unlikely, how much Okay. Seeing as we've opened we've opened this tin of worms with me kind of talking about stuff I usually wouldn't. Here's the inner dialogue I had when Shanna and Vanessa turned up. I was like, what one piece of content have I done to warrant you travelling 2 hours and paying however, I don't even know how much the tickets were. What have I done to warrant that? And that's probably a little bit, some people might say that's me doing myself a disservice, but I was genuinely curious to know what the answer was. Like, what have I done that warrants that level of generosity, right? So my question to you, Aaron, is like, do you have any similar conversations, or are you just 100% great, I'm grateful, that's all I need to know?
I think I still have that inner shyness in me, so...
You what, sorry?
I'm still have that shyness within me.
Okay.
So I'm still... I don't know. I am still humbled by it very much, but at the same time, it's like I take it upon myself to think that I can't produce stupid shit. I need to make an effort to make sure that the stuff that I put out there is quality. Or at least good enough for my audience to sort of get the most out of.
So is what you're basically saying that you don't have that in a dialogue because you're doing great content that's of value to people, so it's like it makes sense, but it's like good enough to fine, you appreciate it and you decided to come and hang out and I'm grateful. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not even about the numbers per se. It's like we talked about Gary Vee and all these other people yesterday. I mentioned Pat Flynn, but he says like when you're first starting out, you shouldn't get too wrapped up with the numbers, because if you can imagine yourself in a room of like 25 people, and say if you have a small audience to begin with, 25 people in a room, it's like a lot, especially when you're first starting out.
Sure.
So to me, I imagine that when I think about maybe our numbers aren't too much or whatever, but the 1 or 5 people that come up to me at a convention, it's like, wow, it's just eye-opening that I can connect with these people in some form or fashion. Is just incredible to me.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And the day and it wasn't that long ago, but the day that I decided I didn't care about numbers was a very liberating day. Because now I see it amongst other creators chasing numbers, and I kind of feel bad for them. Not bad as in you're dumb, just bad because I know the emotional burden that comes with that, right? Mm-hmm. I know that when you're chasing numbers and you're concerned about your subscribers, I know that that's a pathway to nothing but lack of fulfillment. Because once you're worried about numbers, you're never going to have enough.
Sure.
You're never going to have enough. And I know that never having enough will only ever lead you down a path of, not depression, but it's not going to lead you to a place of joy either, right? So the minute I decided I didn't care about numbers, and I cared more about creating content that moves, entertains, whatever. And I focus on the content, not the numbers. And I'm not even doing that with a view to accumulate numbers. I'm just doing that because that's all I really care about. That's where my place of joy is. My place of joy isn't worrying about subscriber numbers. My place of joy is in making content that connects people.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
And exactly what you just said. So 2 people turn up to my film festival, and it's easy to think, God, there's only 2 people here for me. Where's the other 100? But I was thinking, 2 people have travelled 2 hours. Who are these people? Do they not have anything better to do? It's like I was just so grateful. I genuinely was, and I totally agree with you. Totally agree with you, brother. Like 5 people turning up to see you.
Yeah. Speaking about content creating, is there any piece of advice you can give people out there who are trying to start out? I'm sure it's probably skewed to your vantage point, but I guess just maybe generally speaking, what are some general tips that you think they can, use?
This is a really difficult question because there's so many different ways in which you can answer it. Like you can answer it from a mechanical point of view, as in how to create. Are we talking about video? We're talking about audio? God.
No, but I guess you sort of have to try stuff to see which ones work for you.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. That in itself is great. That in itself is great advice, Aaron. Like the trying. Honestly, I don't. Even if we go down to the granular level, if I was to okay, did you find the voiceover of 61 Hugs interesting?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, now I knew that you would, And the reason I say that, again, isn't anything to do with arrogance. It's because I kind of understand how to write in a way that engages people very quickly. And that only comes from the fact that I used to write for entertainment magazines for like a few years. So through something that had nothing to do with where I am now, it's just where I was like 10 years ago, just writing for magazines, I learned how to write content in a way that gets people into it very quickly. So 61 Hugs has zero setup, it has zero opening titles, it's straight into me saying, okay, all right, here's another, all right, the very first sentence of 61 Hugs is, that's me, an ordinary guy with an extraordinary ability. Now, I've not said this to anybody, but I'm so happy I'm going to say it now because I just want to, I want to just unlock and like share as much as I possibly can. It's no coincidence that that's the opening sentence. There's me, an ordinary guy with an extraordinary ability. So that's called an open loop. Like, that's a psychological writing term. So an open loop is when you write something in a way that human beings demand a resolution in every way. We don't like loose ends. So if you've got some guy you've never met saying, that's me, an ordinary guy with an extraordinary ability, whether or not you care about the film or whether or not you think I look weird or you whatever, like at the very least, you're going to want to find out what my extraordinary ability is. At the very least, then I'll switch off. It's like I've got to go and do some shopping, but before I go, what is this guy's extraordinary ability, right? And I knew that that's just a very classic writing technique, so that's why it's in there. It's just to keep them at least another few seconds, right? So, you know, I don't really know what my point is here, but but like, there's so much that goes into that film that I've never really discussed, and one of them is like writing principles and like kind of writing in a way that you're always unraveling new information.
Do you write every day?
I don't ever write. Not anyway, I don't ever write really. But from the point of view of even like, I don't want to go down that route. I was going to talk about like writing press releases and getting my clients in the press or media. That's too much of a tangent. But just simple writing techniques. Back to your question, I would say, okay, based on what I just said, that the tip or advice I would give is, don't get bogged down in your own ego and always produce from a viewer's point of view. Like, you know, if I just released all the footage from 61 Hugs of me leaving my house and me completing the challenge, that footage would be like about an hour, I think. I recorded about an hour of footage. Okay. But I had no desire to put out an hour's worth of footage because who cares about who has an hour? Who has an hour? So even before I started editing, I was like, okay, this has to be tight. This has to be like a tight piece because nowadays nobody has time for anything. So this has to be super tight. So basically what I'm saying here is all the content I produce is always from a consumer's point of view. And actually, this won't make me many friends. But I think more people are thinking from the opposite point of view, as in like, I'm going to create what I want here. Like this is like the me show. This is my creative expression. Right. I think more people think that way than people think my way about, well, actually, nobody cares about your expression if you're boring them to death. Right? So everything I do comes from an audience point of view, and that's why I'm able to get away with not caring about the kit or the gear or how things look, because this is a Gary term, I over-index on the emotional element, and I know that if I can hook them, they'll forget about all the other stuff. Right. So yeah, I'm really glad you've asked that question now, because I've never given this answer before, but my answer to a tip for all creators would be create what your heart wants, but create it for an audience, because that's how they'll care and how they'll become invested, because like you're respecting their time, and I respect people's time. And I know no matter how interesting my thing is, ain't no one giving me an hour, especially when they don't know me.
I'll give you an hour. For the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm interested. What do you think? Do you think that most people are? I just said I don't think enough people are sensitive to the audience. Do you think that's fair? I don't know. What do you think?
I think it is fair because people generally don't have context. They take things at like small little increments, or like even the news is like you get a small little snippet of something that may have happened, but you don't get the general, what may have happened as a whole story. So with that in mind, it's like you get things like blah 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 blah, but you don't have an understanding of some of the things that happen sometimes, So it's like when you don't have the context, then you don't have the ability to form that relationship with somebody.
Okay. Interesting. I'll chew on that for a while. I'll chew on Aaron's context hypothesis.
Well, I mean, because going back to Gary, I mean, he says that content is king, but context is like God, basically. So without that context,
yeah, fair, and yeah, I think I don't know. I suppose my asset that I'm most proud of is my understanding of psychology to a point, and that's something I'm super proud of. And what I mean by that is, I knew that 61 Hugs could be a film without any reference to overthinking. Like it's not critical to the thing still playing out, right? Mm-hmm. But I knew that at least if I had that in it, which is true, I just had to bring it out. I knew that at least it had some basis in humanity beyond a random guy asking random people for hugs. It gave it a reason to exist. And moreover, it gave it a relatability as well. Now, I'm not always creating content that I'm hoping it's going to be relatable per se, but I know that if it can be, it's more preferable. So I knew that by adding the overthinking element, but by actually making a feature of it, I knew it rooted it in humanity that people could get.
Got it.
And that's what I mean about, that's just an asset I'm proud of, understanding psychology. Maybe that comes back to what you were saying about being emotionally aware, I suppose.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. I think that's a good asset to have, and not a lot of people have it.
I appreciate that too. Yeah. I think that's fair, and it's nobody's fault. We all have different tools, right?
Sure, exactly.
We all have different tools. I can't draw for shit.
Yeah, I'm not the best artist either, even though I'm a graphic designer.
I bet you caught that before you.
But I'm good in other aspects when it comes to graphic design.
Sure.
So. I guess, do we have time to do a little thunder round? It's like our off the beaten path set of questions.
I insist.
All right. I guess my first one, since we were at the Marina Village here in San Diego, there's a bunch of yachts and boats around the area, right?
Yes, we were.
So if you had a yacht, what would be the yacht's name?
Okay, I'm just going to say the first thing that came into my mind. Sweet space. And the reason I say sweet space is I just thought about an ocean, and I just thought about serenity in a mass of nothingness, and that would be like utopia for me. Like the fact I'm on a yacht, and it might be an expensive fancy yacht, doesn't excite me, but the fact I'm in a yacht and there's nothing around me, and I like my alone space is like, I love it.
Yeah.
I'm weird, like I love my own me time.
Yeah.
So me being on an ocean with a yacht in just sweet space. I was going to call it sweet space, but that's just nah. We'll go for sweet space.
You'll have enough space to do that on your yacht.
Sorry?
You'll probably have enough space to name it sweet space on your yacht.
yeah, because I can only afford a dinghy. Is basically what he's saying here. A rowing boat at best.
Well, instead of the back, you can put on the side.
Yeah, fair.
I guess my next question is, you're a foodie, right? You love food?
Absolutely. We had some good bison burger yesterday.
Yes, we did. It was awesome. If you could have a meal with anybody dead or alive, who would it be with, and where would you take that person to eat?
Who would it be with, and
where would you take that person to eat?
Okay, I know right now, as we sit here on Monday, the 29th of April, 2019, my answer is Ricky Gervais.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the reason I was specific about the date is because if you'd have asked me that question 3 months ago, I wouldn't have even thought Ricky Gervais. But as the momentum of 61 Hugs has developed, and I've actually realised that this might be my lane as a writer-creator, I look around me and think, who has the career profile that I would... Right now, I can see myself either heading towards or would love to have. It's Ricky Gervais, and the reason for that is nothing to do with fame and adulation and audience size. It's 100% because he has this utopian ability to express his creativity in so many different ways. So stand-up, Netflix series, writing, directing, producing, acting, writing books, and that very much is in my heart, like the ability to do different things so I never get bored. So Ricky Gervais right now, I can't think of any living human who has a career that I would like more than his. But again, that has nothing to do with like notoriety or success or wealth. It's just the ability to actually wake up. Well, okay, I'm going to write a book today. Okay, time to write my Netflix special. Okay, stand-up tour. So Ricky Gervais, and I would take him. To be fair, I don't know. Anywhere, dude. Where should I take him?
Bison burgers? No, I'm joking.
I'd buy him a bison burger.
What's the most interesting thing that you've eaten on your trip here to the States so far?
Okay, the most interesting thing I've drunk is some tea from a lovely human called Kenga, who I met in Old Town. And the most interesting thing I've had to drink or eat would... I'm going to lean towards tater tots. Last night, although I remember you saying you've had better.
Yeah, I did.
You've had better, I really enjoyed those.
Yeah, that was your first time, right?
I believe so.
Ah.
I mean, technically, we have like a very English version called something else, but that was like really crunchy and they were good.
If you're ever back in San Diego, I'll take you to a place in downtown that has pretty good tater tots.
What's the difference between that downtown and what we had?
Well, it's definitely more crispier on the edges.
Crispier? Because they were crispy yesterday.
No, you can take it up another notch.
What?
Yeah.
And is there any difference in the innards?
It's still soft, a little bit. Yeah.
Wow. We're going there.
Looks like they got karaoke at the Pacific Beach Local tonight.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. Let's wrap this thing up.
Speaking of karaoke, if you were going to close down a karaoke joint, what song would you
Lionel
sing?
Richie. No, I love Lionel Richie. My general default karaoke song, however, is Boys of Summer, Don Henley, which is a weird... Do you know the song?
Yes.
Okay, so I adore that song, but it's too high, so I just end up looking ridiculous. But I adore the song. Oh dear.
I guess we better wrap up soon.
I think we must.
So, CK, thank you so much for being on the show.
Dude, I can't even tell you how much I've enjoyed this. How long have we been recording?
It's probably an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty short for you, right?
Well, lately it's been about an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, so it's a good time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you sincerely.
But we've had 3-hour shows before in the past.
Sure.
Where can people find you online?
Okay, so let's just assume you have your own preferred social network. Just search my name on all of them. So it's CK Goldiing, which is GOLDIIN for November G, CK Goldiing with 2 I's. And if you type that into Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you'll find me.
Brother, thanks again, man.
Thank you so much for your support and watching my stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. I've loved this.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace, cheers, and shout out to Susie Botello, the founder of the International Mobile Film Festival, for bringing all these awesome creators together.
Thanks, Susie.
All right. Bye.
Peace.
I know there are tons of other podcasts out there that you could be listening to, and I am humbled that you chose to listen to ours. If you support indie creators like CK Goldiing and you believe in our mission to be the voice of independent creators, we would love a rating, hopefully 5 stars, and a comment on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, please share our episodes using the hashtag HallHShow. To CK, thank you so much, buddy, for being gracious with your time before, during, and the couple of hours after the podcast, just hanging out, enjoying good conversation, chicken wings, beer, and tater tots. Peace, cheers, and if you would like to recommend a guest for our show, please reach out to us on any of our social media accounts or our website, hallh.com.